Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today, we are thinking about being an old soul in this lifetime. Oh my goodness, how many times have I encountered individuals who feel this way? I mean, even myself, you know what I mean? Even myself, I can claim this, but I have a lovely guest here, Chris, who is going to join me and so that we can think about this topic more in depth. So, Chris, thank you so much for coming today on my show. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Mitzi. Thanks for having me.
Good, good. So let's just dive right in. What does an old soul this lifetime mean to you?
It means so much, but it really is about the awakening process in this lifetime. I mean, I'm sure you like many of us are noticing just how many people are awakening and expanding, and we're really lifting the consciousness, right? And old souls in previous lifetimes may or may not have woken up, and it's also not guaranteed that everyone is going to wake up in this lifetime. However, they're making such change and progress in this lifetime, balancing karmas, undoing patterns, breaking generational curses. There's such an expansiveness in this lifetime.
Yeah, that's very true. I really like how you brought that up, how it's transitioning, and some people are just not gonna be awakened or have that awakening of just acknowledging that there was something more than what I am experiencing right now in this moment. And why do you think it's hard for people to grasp this concept?
Well, I think it's really about cognitive dissonance, right? We can only grasp what we understand or are willing to understand. And if you have an openness to you, then you're going to be more expansive just in your own mind, right? The brain, the mind, it's like an onion, there's layers and it peels apart. And that's really how our awakening process works. So if we are closed off to ideas, then we're going to be closed off to this process. So it really is a matter of how you are as a human, how open you are as a human, how compassionate you are and open to others, especially differences and things you
Yeah.
don't know or understand. So the more you can just be this open soul, this open being, it will really put you in an an advantage in this lifetime because you are allowing yourself to learn and to grow.
Yes. 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 I love that last part. Allowing yourself to learn and grow. Goodness, that's a powerful statement in just those words because people don't realize when you allow yourself to learn and grow, oh my goodness, it expands your mind and your just overall well-being in a way. It's like, how dare I be selfish with not yearning for learning?
Exactly.
So I'm curious. Earlier you talked about it, the process of doing this, of the process of just acknowledging and awakening. What entails in that process?
I think it is very individual, right? I mean, in my experience, it really relates to trauma and healing. And I work with a lot of people that have dealt with trauma, especially childhood trauma, and getting to a place of healing and forgiveness and love, really. And it's the self-love. As when we're able to love ourselves, then we open ourselves up to more love. So I think it's like I said, an individual process, but when we take those small steps for ourselves, it really just over time, we notice the impact.
Yeah, that's very true. I think that's how it started with me because I just realized that I came to a point where I needed to learn to love myself again. And I took little increments and I started doing little things that made me feel loved, and more things within myself just revealed itself, and I think that's the beauty with our mind. You know what I mean? It's so
Yeah,
complex. Like the brain is so complex and it holds so much information, and we barely touch the surface in what it actually does and how it operates. We have an idea, we have a map, but at the end of the day, we don't know the little details of what it's holding, and what
absolutely.
it's truly capable of. So it's really interesting to think about that and just to ponder on the possibilities of what if your brain is just waiting for you to catch up. And
Yeah, that's a
half
really
of
good
the
way to put
time,
it.
Yeah, and half the time that's what it is. I mean, we are just waiting for ourselves to get to that point where we are ready to know the truth or know the reason. And I think it just takes time. So I guess what is your opinions on our concept of time, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I think time is an illusion, right? And when we can really conceptualize that, like what does that mean? We are able to allow more because I think, time is very earth-based. It's a very human element, and it can control us if we let it.
Yep.
So if we can recognize that time does not have to control us and that it just is, we open up a lot more for ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We open up a lot for ourselves. Goodness, it makes us think about how we are literally setting up our own walls. And people do it all the time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So we entrap ourselves in these forts that we expect somebody to just break in and love us and just know how to love us. Like, no, nobody's gonna break into a fort if it looks dangerous or they're gonna get killed coming towards it. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody does that. And we don't realize that. But the way you just put it, it is that instinctively the way that I seen it, and it's amazing how when we allow ourselves to think in that manner, the possibilities that come out. But I'm curious, what is your opinion on the difference between a free spirit and an old spirit? Or is there a difference at all in your opinion?
Well, I certainly separate spirit versus soul. And not everyone does this. So just, feel the need to say this is certainly where I come from in my own learnings and teachings. And I always respect where others are. But, the soul is about our our nature, who we are in this lifetime, and then what we then go, where we go beyond that, the soul that comes and goes and learns and evolves. Whereas our spirit, I feel, is more about our will, our drive, the spirit in us that allows us to get up out of bed every day to accomplish goals. And our spirit can be broken as well as the soul. There are fractures that could happen to both. But to your answer about age, I think there are varying ranges of ages of souls. And we're all here for different reasons. We all encounter each other for different reasons. And old souls tend to have a little bit of a personality to them that make them stand out a bit. It's a little easier to see in children. They just hold so much wisdom and seem to just be beyond this time, or even just from a different time where they're a little more slow in nature. They're going to savor moments more. They just have an understanding. Younger souls tend to be more ambitious when it comes to striving for money and fame and fortune, that kind of aspect. An old soul, not that they won't in some ways maybe want I think most of us would like to be monetarily comfortable, but that doesn't seem to be the primary goal for most old souls. But there's definitely a range, and there's different personality aspects, but it's really about, why we're here, why we choose to be here, and supposedly there's a very long line of souls just waiting to come here. And so many of us are like, really? Why? And it's because there's so much to learn and grow because Earth is so hard. It is considered one of the hardest planets. We grow immensely as souls. And as a lot of why we sign up for it, as difficult as it can be, it's kind of like taking AP classes, and you're like, oh gosh, that was hard, but I did it, and I've made it.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. So, do you consider yourself an old soul? And
Oh, absolutely.
when you realize you're an old soul?
I think, like most old souls, were told at young ages. I was told quite a bit when I was younger, and just old souls often feel like they do not fit. And I certainly never felt like I fit in my family. And I have often been in situations where I don't feel like I fit. But the one thing that really stood out to me was I forget exactly how old I was, but maybe around 7 or 8 years old. My parents had gone on vacation, and my mom had an interaction with, and she wanted to have everyone, all, yeah, the whole family's numbers read. But when this numerologist got to me, he couldn't stop talking about my numbers, and he's like, this is an incredibly old soul, and he's like, I've never seen numbers like this, and he was just, very excited about me, and she was just more shocked by it. So she often in my life retold that story, and I believe many of us, when we're told we're old souls, we are retold over and over as a reminder, because there's something for us, there's a message for us in that.
Yeah, I like that. I like the fact that you said that there was a message there for us because we don't realize that there is a message until sometimes later on. You know what I
Much
mean?
later.
Because we are fixated by conforming, you know what I mean, and being part of the now that we are
Yes.
in, that it sometimes entraps us. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I mean, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So when you finally grasp that there's a message, there's a reason, there's a bottom line that we need to grasp for this moment, then it allows us to just be like, breathe, let go. And when you let go, the shackles truly come off. When I say
Yes.
that, it just feels like a type of freedom that allows you to walk around this earth and around this time frame and in this now in such a perspective where you are grateful, you have more compassion and empathy, and when changes or big scares like comes forth, it's like okay, it's just another one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's another war, it's another death, it's another one, unfortunately. And some may see this as a numbing factor, like we've just numbed out the world. But in my opinion, I don't think it's a numbing factor. I think it's just an acceptance, in my opinion. I mean, for you, in your thoughts, what is it like for you?
I think I love how you said how we get fixated, because I believe it is so human to become fixated. And that's when our emotions control us. And we are allowed to have emotions and should have emotions and feel them. But when we get to the place where they're controlling us, that's where we lose a sense of ourselves. But
Yeah.
when we can really take pause, as you said, and recognize, what is this trying to teach me now? And this is not to suggest that that's easy. When things happen and they hurt, it sucks. And I don't want to ever undermine anyone or their experiences, because uh, it doesn't mean you should dismiss it and not feel. It just means, you have to face it, feel
Yeah.
it. Now that you're feeling it, how are you going to work through it? And what are you going to do to push past it, to get yourself to a more advanced version of you? Because ultimately, that is what happens when we go through things, good or bad. We are evolving into a different version of ourselves.
Yeah, I like that. I like that last part, especially evolving to a different version of ourselves. Goodness, it is not said enough how we evolve and how it's good to evolve. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Yeah, change is good, but evolving is so much different. It's on that different level. Like you can change your environment, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have evolved from your environment,
exactly.
and that's the reason why a lot of people get stuck, especially when they come out of prison. They have that prison mindset because they haven't evolved out of that prison environment,
Yeah.
so it's truly something to think about. Really something to think about. Thank you. Goodness, this has been such a great conversation. I really didn't know where it was going to go. You know what I mean? It's a topic that can really go anywhere. And so far, I'm really happy the direction that's going. Yay, us.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. Yeah.
Little praise. Anyways, I'm curious to know your thoughts on this quote. I'm obviously a fanatic about quotes. I think they hold such a greater meaning underlying the words, So I want to know your opinions when you hear this quote. Quote goes, we don't need to be wise beyond our years. All we need is to be wise beyond our fears. So when you hear that, what does that make you think about?
I love that so much, because I believe, back to your word fixated, I think our fears we can become fixated on. and they can control us because when we have a reaction, especially a negative reaction, it usually connects to a fear and it stems from that fear. So we become scared, become anxious of, oh no, what if that happened again? Because it's reminding us of a past event. We can really understand our fears better and how they can limit us. Like that is truly a powerful thing that we can do for ourselves because then our fears don't control us and they can guide us in a way like, hey, this is a limiting factor for you or a limiting belief. And are you willing to face this? Are you willing to work with this? Because sometimes our fears aren't meant to be overcome. We're meant to partner with them and
Yeah.
work with them.
Yeah, I really like that. We really are supposed to work with them. The problem is that we don't even want to deal with them. We don't even
No,
want to acknowledge them.
no.
We want to just shove them in a box and call it a day. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, no, thank you. But it doesn't work like that. Unfortunately, it doesn't work
no.
like that. It's truly like the saying, it's a ticking time bomb because eventually we will have to deal with them no matter if you're ready or not, you know? So you
Yeah,
might as well do it yourself so that you can ease your way in and realize it wasn't that bad because we can build things up in our mind to make things seem more intense than what it is. So when we
yes,
interact with it, it's like paralyzing because one, it's not how it really is, and two, you're disappointed because it's not how you hyped it in your mind, you know?
exactly.
So it's truly amazing how our mind works. It truly is when we take a second to just think about it. So I'm curious, if you could tell your younger self anything, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, a lot. But if I could simplify it, I would let her know it gets better.
It's get better. Yes,
Yeah,
it does get better, doesn't it?
it
Right?
does.
I know. I would tell my younger self that too. It gets better. Give yourself time. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of time and a lot of healing, but oh yeah, I mean, but that gosh, that's just inner child work. It's just giving that little girl a hug and letting her know, we've got this, we're okay, and I've got your back now when no one else did. And it's just yeah, there's I think just having that feeling of if I could have just known that eventually things were going to work out, things were going to be okay. And all because I took steps to heal and, wouldn't have looked outside of myself for something to save me or fix me or help me, that ultimately I had the power.
I have the power. I wish they made a Disney movie on that. You know what I
Oh, so
mean? When we
true,
were
right?
growing up, we watched all those Disney movies where they were saving the girl or they were saving somebody. And that was the goal is to be
Yeah,
saved. And that's why we have this fixation of just
so true.
finding that Prince Charming or finding that superhero. But in reality, no,
Yeah.
we are super ourselves. So what if you could have any superpower, what would your superpower be and why?
Healing, healing.
Oh, healing. That's a good one. I haven't heard that one.
I
Healing.
mean,
What
I
would you do
already
for
work as a
healing?
healer, but when you think of like healing and what everyone thinks, and especially, we're in a society where everyone wants that instant cure, right? But I want, I feel healing, is a mind, body, spirit thing. So what if you can heal someone by giving them perspective and not necessarily taking away their pain, but showing them what it's doing for them or helping them just recognize, I think, gosh, it's interesting that even if you don't change something, but you change perspective, how that in itself can be healing.
Yes, exactly. You can have the same environment, same job, same daily
Yeah.
routine, but if you just change that one perspective that's
Yeah.
like a worm, just kill the worm and just allow it to just heal again. And goodness, the perspective truly does change because sometimes
Yeah.
it works in mysterious ways. Oh my goodness. And it's addicting because once you start healing, you realize, oh, I could probably fix this part. And then you realize you did and you can. And it's like, oh, that means I could go here too. So it's like you're scavenging through yourself. And I think that's one thing that people forget is looking back at themselves. You know what I mean?
I
Reflecting
agree.
back on who they are, why they are, what they are, you know what I mean? Where they're going. They're so caught up in this what is it called? It's this big thing now where people feel like they're free, they're missing out. What is that called?
FOMO.
Yes, yes, yes. And I don't understand that concept. Like why? And I feel like I see it all the time with my nephews and nieces, and or it's like being bored is not right because I feel like being entertained, they're gonna enjoy something or value something, but it's like not really. You guys don't value much. You know what I mean? Sometimes those boring moments makes the real moments valuable, and you cherish those and like, yes, that was so nice.
Yes. Yeah.
Like
Boredom
I
breeds creativity. That's how
right?
we create, boredom is good. Go sit in a room. There's actually a famous psychic by the name of Gordon Higginson. His mother was also very intuitive and was guided to help guide him. And one of the things she would do, and this is going to sound terrible, but she would put him in a closet and say, "Don't leave until your spirit." And he would just sit there. I mean, talk about being bored. You're being shoved in a closet. And granted, he was, apparently treated well, but we hear that you think, imagine shoving your child in a closet. But he went on to become not only an incredibly great psychic, but a great clairaudient. He could really hear things like where he knew people's, addresses and, names, and just would have very specific information, all because he took those moments of pause, many moments of pause. And that's just one example. What about great artists, right? Who are just left with a canvas, but they're given time and they sit there bored and they create something amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It is truly amazing what people can do if they once they just allow it and just have that initiative to go for it. So
Exactly.
I would like to know what can be some lasting words of wisdom that you can leave us off with. Even though this conversation has been such a great time, I feel like we have so many great points that people can just continue on thinking for the rest of their days. But what can be some lasting words of wisdom you can leave us off with?
I would just like to remind people that healing is a marathon, not a sprint, and it takes a lifetime to work through things, but that doesn't mean you haven't made progress. So have patience with yourself and your process. Just know that you are exactly where you're meant to be and you're not failing. The soul is not about passing or failing, it's about learning, and you are learning through everything.
Yeah. There you go. You guys heard it first from Chris. Oh my goodness, Chris, thank you so much again for this conversation. And if anybody wants to know more about Chris, I have her lovely photo on my website. You can find all of the goodness that she has to offer the world. And you can just click right there and it goes access to everything that she has. So with that being said, always, always, always keep thinking, y'all. Bye.